Hey everybody, it's Dr. Nancy Sutton Pierce, and I'm here for an episode of Wild Women with Wine. I have a special guest that's coming in tonight because Karen is doing her family enjoyment in Chicago. And so she won't be joining us tonight. Maybe she'll pop in if she sees us on. Maybe she'll pop in, but I have somebody else that's going to be joining us. So I hope you're having a great week, and I've got some fun things to talk. So we have our guest coming in, and it's Mr. Sensual Domination. Hello, Mr. Sensual Domination.
Hi, Nance.
So this is a person that's very special in my life. Some of you may recognize him, but tonight he's just going to be called SD, Sensual Domination. And we're going to talk a little bit about in the world of human sexuality, what is sensual domination. So I'm going to interview him a little bit here tonight and see what he can shed some light on. So if you have questions about what is sensual domination, put them in the comments and we'll ask him those questions. So SD, as you're going to be known now, how do you define sensual domination?
Well, I like to think of it as us being dominated by pleasure in our sensations. It can either be physical sensations, or it can be a story or an erotic fantasy. And either one of those will start to create the energy you need to go into that world and of discovery and surprise.
And is this related to BDSM in any way, in your opinion?
Well, I think it all of those have similar threads, but this one is less. There's not as much of a trust issue because you're being dominated by senses rather than being tied up or restrained. There's no physical restraint in sensual domination.
Okay. Could there be, if the person wanted that? I mean, let's say somebody really loved the sensual feeling of having silk around their wrists and the restraint of fur or things, different tactile products that might arouse their senses.
I'm sure
Could
it could go that. It could evolve that way. I think. I personally would want to get to know that person a little bit more before I moved into that realm. I think that that dominating a person with their senses first is tricky and difficult. And if you can accomplish that, then adding on more physical restraint will only heighten things, I believe, because there's always the uncertainty of what's going to happen next. Where are you going to be touched next? How's that going to feel? Am I ready for that? All of those. It is definitely a game of pleasure.
And do you find that, see Erica popped in, our friend Erica from Jamaica. Hi, hello, beautiful. Do you feel like the consent process has equal value in sensual domination?
I think it is. I think that a person, the part of the consent can be very sexy because it does give them an idea of what is perhaps coming their way. What's the list of things that could occur, and some of that anticipation is part of the excitement. So I think that consent is important for the person who's dominating to know where the lines are and what's okay and what's not okay, and the other person also is already starting to be teased by the menu itself.
Oh, those menus are so much fun, aren't they? Is that part of the process? Hi, Brady. Is that part of the process, do you think, of creating that sensual domination? I don't know, arena is to create a menu that, just having that kind of conversation could be mentally, for the sapiosexuals out there, could be quite arousing.
Yeah, I think it is because it would start off as a simple phrase, which becomes a topic, which sometimes requires more explanation before they check yes or no, that would be something they're interested in. And that discussion is part of sensual domination.
Erica says that sensual domination is just so luxurious. I love that word. I'm kind of I would say I'm a word whore. So there are certain words that when I hear them, read them, or say them, they give me a sensual feeling. So wordplay might be a part because of hearing. That might be a part of sensual domination. You think?
I think so. I think the sounds, the music, the atmosphere, the the whole process starts to heighten the sentence. And then once they're heightened, that creates a vulnerability. And of course, it's part of dominating is to quietly take advantage of some of those vulnerabilities in a kind, gentle, and erotic way. And it's a building process. It doesn't start off too quickly, and I think that the slow build is always a good strategy.
What can you share maybe a really highlight sensual domination experience that you've had or that you've brought to your partner that stands out in your mind?
Well, I think the surprise. I think when you're trying to heighten the senses and you're giving a massage, perhaps under a light covering, and a hair dryer, which provides some warmth, can be used to warm up different parts of the body. You can start off on the belly and move your way up to the breasts, and just that warm air would create a naughty sensation of exposure because it's going to focus your attention on what's being warmed up. And
gives a whole new meaning to blowjob.
Right, that's right. And of course, while it's occurring, I mean, I like to describe what I'm seeing. So if their nipples are getting harder, you can relay that to them, and obviously they would know that that's occurring. But pointing it out to them would create an even more vulnerability or any sign of wetness. Just what you're observing would be more tantalizing and sensitize that skin for the next sensation.
Have you ever done play where you've eliminated one of the senses, like with canceling headphones or to take the vision away or something of that nature? Have you experienced that?
Well, I think that's part of the surprises when you take somebody and you put on the canceling headphones without music so that there's an absence of sound and noise, and then start to warm up the skin. It definitely becomes even more tantalizing. And I've thought about making a little recording to play rather than music so that they know, perhaps telling them a fantasy or just describing again what I'm witnessing or seeing is pretty erotic for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think, they've always say that when you lose one of your senses, that all the others wake up. So to play like that can really, especially I work with a lot of women that have trouble getting out of their head and into their experience. And so I think for women that are struggling with that and getting into that relaxed state, and men too, men are busy in the minds also, to be able to kind of shift gears like that can really create a very erotic and sensual experience. And it doesn't even have to necessarily be an overt sexual experience. I mean, it may turn into that just because that's the direction you desire to go. But just to teach people how to get into their body and enjoy other sensations without having to see or hear or those senses. So
Well, anytime you eliminate a sense, there's going to be a little more tension that develops in that person. But rather than take it in a place that I want it to go, I really like to see if I can, with the erotic nature of this, get them to reveal what they're experiencing. And as they reveal what they're experiencing, that just heightens the vulnerability that much more. And I think that, what's going to happen next and how it's anticipated, and then when it occurs, is part of that experience. So you're right, it may not go to be sexual, but how much fun if it became sexual without it actually being sexual.
Yeah.
Watch a person get close to a climax without the normal foreplay that you might experience. Something different, something different.
I just want to remind our listeners that we do have badges turned on. That's the little tipping for the process here. Everything that you tip in this program, I share with Karen. We are a team, and we have a guest tonight, Sensual Domination Master. But if you want to, use the badges, we do get really excited and thrilled when you do that, because it's just an acknowledgement that you value our time and our effort to put these shows on every week. Brady has a question. He said, is there a difference between sensual domination and seduction? This is a great question. What would you say to that?
I guess seduction for me implies that it's more about the person who's seducing than it is about the person who's receiving. And sensual domination is all about the person that's receiving. So you're not trying to take them a place that they don't want to go. You're trying to decide or see if you can discover where their mind is, and just having them reveal that to you, perhaps a little bit more of a stranger, in itself is very naughty and erotic. And so I think that seduction for me is a little bit more aggressive, and I'm trying to stay on the fine side of the domination spectrum. I think there's a whole spectrum of domination, but
sure,
this is a little bit more subtle. Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people misunderstand that word domination. They think it's an aggressive term, and it really is more about creating such a safe place that whomever you're with can relax into the experience and trust that you're going to honor their boundaries, that you've had those conversations like we talked about, the consent conversations, their limits, or you've given them a word that they can use to call it, and that they will be honored. When 50 Shades of Grey came out, there was a lot of misunderstanding about BDSM and abuse, thinking that they were one and the same. And what I would say is domination, sensual domination, is the opposite, because you're actually putting the other person's needs front and center, not your own.
Yeah, I think for the person who's dominating, it's their curiosity is about human nature and about whether this person's willing to reveal their erotic enjoyment, and it's quite erotic to witness that, to see somebody be able to trust enough to go there, to reveal something about themselves that perhaps is a little difficult. If you're having a conversation about sex and a person is not turned on or excited or aroused, that conversation is quite different than when it's in the setting of sensual domination, or that erotic feeling. And none of this matters if it's true, or there's no judgment. It's just enjoyment for the time that you're together and experiencing it for both parties.
So Brady's telling me my badges aren't showing. Damn.
No badge of honor here, huh?
Yeah. So, all right. Well, we'll just keep going. When you're doing when you're having a central domination experience, how difficult is it for you to not get caught up in your own desires and your own urges that arise during that experience?
um, I think that you have to be excited about all possibilities. That's true, because if you have your own agenda before you meet the person, what I believe happens is that you're not going to have the intuition about what that person wants and desires. It's going to be clouded by your own wants and desires, and it it's quite sexy for me to have that revealed, and then to go with that and to see where it would take them or take us. And each time's unique, each time's a little different, and that's the excitement, I think, for the person who's dominating, is to just see where it's going to go. Because if you get too much into yourself, you won't ask the right questions, you won't ask the right, you won't touch the body, or tantalize them in a way that is good for them. You'll be touching them for what you want. And I think in some of your lectures, you've emphasized that. Touch me
Yes.
the way, and vice versa. You
And
might want to clarify that, but yeah.
yeah, that's a great practice to learn, is for people to know how and why they touch someone and who they're touching them for. And Brady asked a question a little bit ago, is how do you get out of your head when you're making love to someone? And I think this is a great way, Brady, is to be really focused on them, their cues, their pleasure, trying to read them. If you're focusing on them, then chances are you're not in your own head. You're not worried about what you're doing or not getting or getting. You're just enjoying the process and trying to do everything you can to bring pleasure to your partner. And that in itself can be very pleasing. And then usually it's reciprocal.
I think any time you see somebody that you're willing to work with, there's connection, and you see them uh, feeling erotic, feeling sexualized, and experiencing that will draw you in very quickly. I mean, it's a wonderful experience. Anybody that's been in the lifestyle, that's been able to observe their partner with somebody else, would have that kind of experience. Seeing that pleasure from a third person angle, I think is maybe a little bit of what happens in these situations.
Mm.
But it is challenging. I think the domination part is, there's a little bit of a challenge to it. You can't just go in and be kind of random. You've got to have a strategy, and then you've got to modify that strategy based on how they're responding, what they're feeling, how they're experiencing what you're providing. I think.
So you need some tools in your kit, is what you're saying.
Oh, absolutely, yes. I mean, but sometimes it's surprising the things that you can do to make it erotic.
Mhm.
I mean, you ask them to fill out a consent form and to start talking about some of the things that they like, and then you turn on a recorder, and you have no intention of ever listening to the recording. Perhaps you just
Or maybe you
pretend,
do.
or yeah, maybe you do. You turn on the recording, but the point is that just them noticing that they're being recorded is going to make them a little more self-conscious,
Yeah.
and that's a vulnerability which can be very erotic, and so you have to have some tools and some strategies for sure.
So Erica wants to know, if you're someone new to this type of experience, how do you begin this practice or this experience? What's the first step?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, it takes two to tangle, so you've got to find somebody that wants to be in this situation, and then I guess decide who's going to dominate and who's going to provide that experience. And you know, it's there's always that question: do you start this with somebody that you're very comfortable with and see where it can go, or do you go to somebody who you know is has been doing this and has some experience in it, and trust them, you know? So a little bit more, not necessarily a stranger, but somebody that isn't, you haven't been intimate with. And
like a professional dom sort of thing, huh?
right, right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the two main ways to experience it. Obviously, the person you're intimate with, or if you've had a partner that wants to do this, they may have good intentions, but not the strategies that somebody who's done it with multiple other people and kind of knows where human nature and vulnerabilities exist.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, do you ever think about doing a workshop, teaching a workshop about sensual domination?
well, that would be fun. Yeah, I think that would be the erotic mind is definitely my favorite place to live, and I think that would be a good place to start. I don't know. I've not taught it, so that would be a learning experience in itself. You know, providing some examples, but how you do it, there's going to be some uh, starts and stops, so to speak. You might start with somebody, and it just may not be happening, and you've got to be willing, and you got to trust that person to not be mad at you if you're not able to accomplish over the top night, so to speak. So yeah.
Yeah, I think going in with expectations for anything like that, it's always a little fraught with, you know, you know, disappointment possibility. So
Right. But the second time, after there's been some success, you know, my goodness, it could be quite fun for both participants. The Dom wants their own experience. I mean, they're not a passive player. They're interested in the pleasure of their subject, but they're not passive. That's exciting for them. That's why they're there. Um, and you know, I guess they could want to make some money, but I think that it's more than that. It has to be fun and exciting and thrilling for both parties.
yeah. So as a sensual dom, do you regularly switch roles where you're the recipient of sensual domination, or do you tend to gravitate toward more being the dom?
I think for me personally, I tend to like the role of the dom, and being in that in that part of it. That isn't to say that someone else couldn't perhaps overpower me and take me to a different place. But I think in general, people kind of know which side of the coin they'd like to be on. But you know, role reversal is another part of the erotic mind. You know, that could be very uncomfortable, and uncomfortable is okay. I mean, I don't, you know, you don't want it to be a bad experience, but
Right.
Going from uncomfortable to comfortable to erotic to crazy good is it's a ride. It's like finding that edge, you know, walking that edge right before orgasm can be pretty thrilling. And how long can that other person keep you there? And then once you realize that they are keeping you there, that they have that much control over your body, your orgasm, your mind, that in itself will make it even better, I think. At least that's what I hope for.
Well, I think that's that ability to surrender, and that's where the contract and the trust comes in for people. And I think a lot of people that gravitate toward being the sub in those kind of roles tend to be usually are very high-powered, dominant people in their work or in society, and they have trouble relinquishing that. You know, that people refer to themselves as a control freak. They have trouble relinquishing that control. So when they can slide into the role of being the sub and being the recipient and not having to direct and not having to control, that in and of itself can be freeing. And so there's a lot of therapeutic benefit to that, as well as just fun and pleasure, is to be able to trust that you can let go of the reins periodically, and it's okay. You still can stop the train if you need to, but yeah.
Yeah, certainly. Anytime if it's going sideways, it needs to stop. But I tease with the word surrender because a person might think that they're surrendering, but really they're just being taken to a different place. Uh, you know, necessarily be against their will, but it would be a surrender to the excitement of the sensations. And we all have that. I think that is in itself what an orgasm is. When all of that energy climaxes, you surrender to it and you experience that. And sensual domination can be a slow build of that, like I said, to the edge, and then realizing that someone is controlling that part and can make you orgasm anytime that they're ready for that to occur. Can be pretty exciting.
Yeah. Well, it's getting warm in here. just, just chatting about it. You can see my shirt's on fire. So that's good stuff. So Brady wants to know if we've seen the show Sex Life on Netflix. I think we've seen some episodes of that where it shows different varieties of human beings having sexuality, having sexual experiences. I mean, I've been a sexologist for 6 years now, so there's not a lot, and I've been to Hedo 43 times, so there's not a lot that I haven't seen or, so I'm not sure.
Are you sure?
Well, I'm always game to see more. So Brady, do you have a specific question about that? So, do you have anything else that we have a couple more minutes here to go? Do you have anything else that you think? I mean, now you're also doing some writing. Is that correct?
That's right. I think that erotic writing, fantasies, is a fun pastime, and that is that's another chapter in sensual domination. We've all read a book and just been totally absorbed, and maybe you're getting excited as you read it. You can't put it down, and maybe you'll even start teasing yourself a little bit. So fantasy and reading is definitely a sense, and can take you there. And role play too is another way to work into sensual domination. The person setting up the roles and setting up the scene and setting up the experience obviously is the dom, and the other person is the guest. And so role play can also be another way to experience some early parts of sensual domination. And then when you get a little bit more into it, the headphones go on and the toys come out, and pretty soon the body can be pretty electrified.
Yeah, speaking of electrification, there are those little shock wands that people use. I can't remember the name of it. It's a violet. Erica, do you know the name of that? Violet wand, I think it is, where it gives a little electrical shocks. Those can be fun to play with, and just different, all sorts. I mean, there's so many different sensations. I mean, even food play, where you're feeding each other different foods, and the different neon wand, it's one of them. There's different sensations and tastes and smells and those kinds of things. Doing that blindfolded can add to the sensuality of sharing a meal. So these things don't always have to be done in a formal setting. They can be done intermittently in a life, just to keep that vibration of eroticism and sensuality heightened in a relationship as well. Do you think is that kind of what you'd like couples to know?
Oh, I think so, because sometimes if this goes on for quite some time, you need a pause, you need a break, you need a time to refuel and recover. And then you know, with all that sex energy in the air, you come back together a short time later, and you don't have to resume the play. As a matter of fact, there's always a hazard when you pause to trying to regroup and do the same thing again.
Yeah.
But you can have some pretty hot, passionate sex because you're sexualized. Your whole body is sexualized, and you're ready to have that orgasmic experience as long as you can have it. And
Yeah.
and I think sometimes for men that's not a bad pattern too, because if we have real long foreplay, from the standpoint of just physiology, sometimes our parts, the erection will wane a little bit as we focus entirely on the subject or the person, whoever's, you know, doing this, and they need a little time to regroup, to come back and to be totally to basically be sexual. I think sometimes that's necessary as well, and so it doesn't have to be a single course event. It can be a multiple course event.
In some of my group classes that I've taught, this last trip to Jamaica, several of the young men brought that up because we were talking about like how long it takes women to get going, and you know, 20 to 40 minutes of foreplay, and these guys are kind of going, you know, okay, great, but I can't stay erect that long without, I mean, that's painful or it's not possible. So I think there is a bit of a disconnect in timing for male and females in terms of how the genitals work. So doing these sensual things without the anticipation for the penis owner to have to maintain an erection that long. I mean, it might kind of come and go as your erotic mind gets turned on, but there's not necessarily the anticipation of penetration right away. Then wait, give it a little break, and then come back when she's already revved up. And so I think those type of things that are physiologically really necessary for us to understand about each other, and then honor in these creative ways like you're describing. Yeah.
I think that's a great way to look at it. And, you know, after the pause, you know, both people can be pretty heightened. And then when you come back together, you know, that energy now can be much more electrifying or orgasmic or whatever word you want to put to it for both people.
Definitely.
Because I don't think that the Dom, especially if it's a male Dom, that he's going to maintain an erection for a half hour, an hour of play. As a matter of fact, he might be very wet and excited, but that part is going to wax and wane. The sex energy is in his mind, which is kind of fascinating.
Yeah,
and that's I love it. So that's part of where I like to live.
Where you live.
Yep, so, absolutely.
So Brady's asking, do you know any good books on the essence of Kama Sutra? No titles right off the top of my head, Brady, but there's so many out there. I would say just pick one and start with it, and learn about sex energy. That look for things that have that kind of direction and sex energy. So Brian says he might need sex jumper cables. Maybe that's what we could invent, is some jumper cables to kickstart that boy.
Well, nothing kickstarts a man more than seeing their partner sexualized and ready to play. I mean, I think, you know, guys like to seduce, but we prefer to already know that we're past that part, and that the person that we're with that evening is sexualized. They're there for the play, and you know, you still need to go through the consent process to make sure you're not getting off the rails, but you certainly aren't going to burn through a whole evening just trying to decide if you're going to become sexual. I've seen that happen, where people have very long conversations and they haven't even decided if they're going to be sexual, and that's important. But one person's probably going to be frustrated.
And I have to come back to that word seduction, because I think that word also has a little bit of a manipulation bend to it.
Right.
And that can look like pressure, that can look like coercion, that can look like it can be a little creepy, especially if it's with a stranger. So I think the seduction, it needs to be much more subtle and inviting. And the more curious you are about people and what turns them on, rather than rattling off with it to a total stranger. All right, this is my pet peeve. When people will, some total stranger on social media will tell me what they want to do to me. So listen, if you're telling a person what you want to do to them and you haven't even met them and you've never had a conversation with them, that feels rapey. So this is the opposite of that. This is sensual. This is about getting into a person's erotic mind and trying to find out what turns them on, so that you can guide them through an erotic experience that's pleasurable to them, because you're reading their body, right? I mean, as a sensual dominant, you have to be really good at body language.
I think that comes back to the agenda. If the person who's dominating has his own agenda from the onset, then you should probably switch it around and do it the other way, because that is not going to work. It's the dominatrix person is trying to discover that person's sexuality, and it's very difficult for a person to be willing to reveal their sexuality, even to a person they've been married to for many, many years. We still discover things that perhaps are very private, and that's part of the fun. But if you take a person that you don't know as well, there's going to be some tension there, and that tension is part of the play and part of the fun.
Right.
But it's not about having an agenda. That is probably the key first step. That would be chapter 1 in the lecture series of Sensual.
No agenda.
No agenda. You got to go with the flow and see where you find yourself with this other person. Yep.
So Erica says, such a fun and sexy conversation. I love listening to this idea. Such a great reminder of how we can heighten pleasure and that essence of a beautiful surrender. Yeah, it is. It's pretty fun. All right, so Brady's going to do his sex energy homework. And should I let go of this theory of seduction? I don't want to be creepy. Yeah, I think the seduction word means that you're trying to seduce a person to do what you want them to do, rather than trying to find out what it is a person wants and provide that for them.
Yeah, I mean, and this is where all of your teaching comes into play too, where if a person's going to reveal to you something that is difficult, and maybe it's in general sense a little kinky or a little bit ornery, they have to know that they're revealing in a safe space, and that would be chapter 2, creating that safe space. Not having an agenda, creating a safe space, getting to know each other, but creating a tension so that arouses and heightens the sensations that you're about to experience when your body's touched in an erotic way.
Exactly. Beautifully stated. Well, we're about out of time. So if anybody has any questions or they'd like more information on sensual domination, you can send me a DM afterward or write to me at drnsp.com. Go to my website. You can find my email. I've got some incredible sensual experiences coming up. I'll be teaching in New Orleans in August 4th through 8th. I'll be doing a 3-day couples intimacy boot camp in Malibu, October 8th, 9th, and 10th. In February, I will be in Jamaica teaching couples Kama Sutra intimacy oasis over Valentine's week. And then next June, back to the Exotic Lifestyle Retreat for couples and singles, honoring women and those who adore them. And all of these concepts around sensual domination, sensuality, consent, these are all roots to what I teach to different audiences in different ways. But thank you, Sensual Domination Master, for joining us tonight, for jumping in. And really, I think this was quite a fabulous interview. You bring a lot of light and love to what you do. And I think the world could use a lot more of what you are and do and provide.
Thank you. And I'll tease you a little bit, because you say that most people who see me don't really know who they're looking at.
No.
So I like that.
You're mysterious.
Being a little bit mysterious, and and again, that's also part of that power.
Don't judge a book by its cover, right?
That's right. That's right.
You better read what's between those pages.
All right.
All right. So Brady says, thank you for this teaching. He's going to continue to learn. Awesome, Brady. You're a doll, baby.
Well, maybe we'll have to have a little group, like you said, have a group on sensual domination as well.
Yeah, we may need to do that. And let's get, let's help you get that book going.
All righty.
We've already got 2 chapters written here tonight.
I do. Well,
next show, we'll talk about chapter 3 and 4.
All right.
All right. Thank you for joining us. All right, everybody. So I'll see you next week. Karen and I will be back, and we will be having another Wild Women with Wine, and maybe we can get Sensual Domination Master to come join us another show and bring more of his love, light, and lusty sensual pleasures back with him.
Do 10 minutes a week, and then put together a group. All right.
There we go. All right. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night. Bye-bye.